wow, Shawn's results over 60 closings in year two. That's insane. How has he done that? He forced himself to get in uncomfortable situations consistently. Welcome back to another episode of All or Nothing in Real Estate. I'm your host, Matt Smith, the founder of All or Nothing in Real Estate. This podcast is a movement to give back to this amazing industry has given so much to me and my family. So guys, today we have a very special episode. I feel like they're all special. And I appreciate all the support from all of you guys sharing throughout the years. This started as a passion project, and it's just crazy to see we're well over 30,000 downloads, and it just continues to grow in popularity. And love everyone sharing the show. And I just want to say before we get started, thank you. I appreciate it. It helps motivate me, inspires me that there's hope for our industry and that we are giving content that people need so they can win at a high level in today's marketplace. Without further ado, today's episode is going to be for lack of better terms, I think people get turned off with this term, but I think it's just what it is. It's a recap. We're going to go back through and recap our takeaways from the last event that we were at. I think big things happen at big events, and being around like-minded people and being around people that are honestly some of the highest performers in the space today. And I had a bunch of several of my team there with me. And today we have special guest. He's become almost a regular on the show, but he's a top performing agent on my team, and also just someone that is a lifelong learner, striving to learn more and more and more. And he always tries to make it in these rooms. And so I just wanted him to share his perspective for everyone of his takeaways from this event specifically. He's been to a lot of events, and he shared with me this was probably the one he had the biggest light bulb go off. And so I just really excited to unpack that with you guys today. So without further ado, Shawn McArthur, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here as always. And it is amazing to see how much the podcast has grown and how much, everything we both changed along with the podcast as from the very first episode, right after I very first started to now. It's almost like I feel like even me personally, I feel like a completely new person between then and now. So
Dude, I love it. And it's just that growth mindset, right? And I think being in these rooms is a big part of that, right? Listening to stuff like these podcasts. I know that you are always reading or listening or learning something new, just like myself. And I think a lot of that contributes to the growth. And so our listeners that are listening to this, hopefully we are that for them, right? I know for a fact, I actually learn a lot by doing this show myself. I learn it from some of our guests. I learn it from forcing myself to unpack some of the things that I maybe learned at a more in-depth level. I think there's a big difference in, as an example, we're talking about an event today. How many agents go to an event and they come back with all of these crazy ideas and all of these things they're going to do, and then they do nothing? They're fired up, they're motivated, they're excited. I'm going to change everything, and then nothing happens.
like 99%, I guarantee probably 1% of the room takes action more than just maybe I make one small tweak. People, for the most part, don't take any action. They take a huge book of notes. It gets lost on their shelf, and you completely forget about it. And you spent however much money you spent and didn't do anything from it.
100%. And so I think one of the things that I'm impressed by Shawn is his ability to actually implement those things and those changes. And so hopefully we can do our job at kind of unpacking what we learned at this event, our takeaways, and you guys can have an impact on your business as well. Again, Shawn is an agent on our team. He's going to sell. Shawn, how many houses are you going to sell this year?
At least 50 plus. Well, maybe more like 60 now. I think my goal was 50, but we're already halfway past that. So
yeah. So he's absolutely crushing it. And he's been in the business, what, 2 years? Less than?
Almost right at my 2 year. I think I'm right at my 2 year mark now officially.
Yeah. And so it's really, really impressive to see from his production. And so I think that we can all learn something from that. But also from my perspective, I'll share from my lens as well. So I think we'll get all aspects, whether you're an agent on a team, whether you're a solo agent, whether you're a team leader, a broker owner. I'll share it from our team is on pace for over 800 closings this year. And so I'll share it from the team leader perspective, and also I have a unique perspective as a coach. Several of my coaching clients were in the room actually for this event. And I think it's where a lot of like-minded thinkers kind of come together. And I'll share my perspective of my takeaways as both a team leader and a coach, and as well as some of the takeaways I've heard from some of my coaching clients. I just think that we'll just address it from all angles so that everyone gets some sort of value and nuggets from this that they can go apply to their business. And like I said, win at a high level. So, Shawn, let's dive in, man. You said that you've been to a lot of events, and you said that this was the one where you had the biggest light bulb go off. So let's unpack that. What was that light bulb?
I think the biggest thing, which we'll go into the actual tactical details, like what we learned, what we're taking away. For me, honestly, it was being in the room and feeling comfortable. So sometimes people talk about more is better, better is better, better is better. And so doing things consistently over time. So like the very first time I was in this room, I felt like a complete fraud. Like, why am I in here? These are all team leaders. These are high producers. I think I was almost a brand new agent, maybe been in the business 8 or 9 months at that point. I just wanted to be in the room and consistently coming back over and over. You start taking more takeaways and you don't feel that overwhelm. You feel motivated. I feel so fired up, so motivated. I have such clarity from this event that I haven't had. It's usually taken me anywhere from 5 to 7 days after an event to kind of get myself clear, get back on track and go. This one, I felt so fired up just being at the event, taking key takeaways, building out plans, just game changer for sure.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things there. Number one, you need to force yourself to be in rooms that you're uncomfortable in, right? Like somebody may be listening and saying, wow, Shawn's results over 60 closings in year 2. That's insane. How has he done that? He forced himself to get in uncomfortable situations consistently. And so I think that too many of us just kind of get comfortable, right? We get complacent and we kind of put things on cruise control, whether that be going and learning something new, whether that be the way that we approach our business. There's so many different things I can unpack there, but complacency kills progress. And so I think it's super important that we're always progressing, we're always learning, always growing. And part of that growth comes from forcing yourself to do things that feel uncomfortable. Because if you think about it, like it's so simple, but we just forget this through our journey of life and success and growth or whatever it may be, is that anything that has helped us grow has always been uncomfortable. So we need to go find more uncomfortable things. And what happens over time, you get in those uncomfortable environments, you consistently show up, you can consistently have one takeaway and you implement, then another takeaway and you implement, is eventually you show up in the rooms and you become like, man, I'm glad I'm here and I should be here. Because you've earned that feeling and that confidence by continuing to show up.
Because the level of that room, the production, the success of the room, the people of the room, the topics, those didn't change. I leveled up to be in that room. The room didn't level down to my level. I consistently, by going over and over, and that's what I think one of the biggest issues people have just with there's so much information in the world today. You do one podcast, one book, and you just jump thing to thing to thing to thing versus reading that book 3 or 4 times to get the information. Going to the event quarterly, consistently. It's such a major difference.
I'm laughing because if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that Shawn's in my office and I'm not in my office recording this. So I was looking behind Shawn at the backdrop of my office and all those books that I have on the shelf. That's 1/100th of the books that I have. And I think something I've recognized recently is that I don't need to read more books. I need to read less books more. Mm-hmm. I don't need more training. I need less training more times. Right. And I think too many times, like it's at the end of the day, we need to be able to master the things that are working. And it's just so important that we don't fall into shiny object syndrome and we try to find this next thing and the next thing. I'm not saying don't be innovative, don't evolve. Of course, you have to do those things. But one of the funniest sayings over the last couple of years I've heard is that, like with the market shifts and the adjustments that we went through, is that you got to get back to the basics, back to the basics. Why did we ever leave the basics? The basics never stopped working, right? Like I'm guilty, right? Guilty. I've done it, but why did we leave them? And I think that if we could just all learn, like even in this room with the highest, literally these are the highest performers in the country. And so Shawn, it's perfectly normal that you felt uncomfortable because I still feel uncomfortable there, right? That's why I go. We just announced that I was hand selected by Jon Cheplak to be a presenter at his breakout session for just him that he's hosting at Inman Connect this year in Vegas. And I'm like, holy shit, like that's a big event. And you're picking me to come and share value. Like I better deliver, right? So if you want information, if you want to go, like that's going to be a game changer, by the way, because the operators that I'm alongside alongside with Jon Cheplak at that event at Inman. Go check it out, Inman Connect. We'll link it in the show notes here too. We'll make sure that we give you access there. But if you want to unpack and be at more events like Shawn has experienced, that'll be a great one to be at. But Shawn, so you mentioned like just the unpacking of events and like have actually taking action steps from the events. And I think too many people, like we mentioned already, go to an event and they just get an overwhelm. They intake all these things and they're going to change everything. I have my best practices that I do, but I'm curious if you could walk us through after an event, after you read a book, after you listen to a podcast, after you find something that watch a webinar that gives you value, what is your process that you go through so you can actually implement and take action on those things?
Right. So what I'll do, I'll talk about the mastermind first, and then the books and stuff we'll hit on a little bit too. So basically what I do, and this is, I think, one of the biggest reasons it's had such a big impact between this one and the last couple, because you get that overwhelmed stage. I got to change my entire life, my entire business. I have to change my schedule, everything all at once. And it's completely overwhelming. And it just seems like it's an impossible task that you can never overcome. So what I started doing, I think it was actually the last mastermind, a couple of the different speakers talked about some of the best practices they use. And I kind of took some of that and implemented it into mine. So what I'll do now is I'll start things. I think I took some of this from you, actually. I've seen it in your notebooks and figured if it worked for you, worked for me. So I'll start things that I think are important, and then I'll highlight and put arrows around big, bold things that I need to revisit after. And then basically at the end of each day, review the list once, pull those key topics to the side to a page. And then after day two, do the same thing. And then usually on the flight back, so this time on the flight back, I re-went through all those bulleted points and created a brand new list of all the things that I want to change now or later. And then what you do once you get that list is kind of basically categorize them of like, this is the biggest change in the business. This will take the longest, and just go from there. What can I implement tomorrow? And what's going to be like a quarterly long thing before the next mastermind that I can actually implement in my business or help the team with, and then kind of go down the list from there.
I love it. Cool. Yeah, that's 100%. You got to have a process. You got to unpack it. Like I'm guilty. I've been to a lot of events, and I've got a lot of, I think I even still have some in my backpack that I carry my computer in, like of notes that I've never looked at in 3 years. Right. So I'm not saying that I'm not pointing the finger. I'm guilty as well. But I think like if I were to go back and look at a Cheplak Tahoe event from 3 years ago, I'd be willing to bet there is so many commonalities from this last event from then. I just haven't reviewed those notes. And again, times change. And so they've evolved, and the evolution of those are still crucial, but the principles are the same. Mm-hmm. And I think that too many times we want the secret, but we don't do the work to unpack what the next thing is that we can do to grow. Because all of these people that spoke on stage, all these people that are in these rooms that are winning at a high level, they don't change everything overnight. It's gradual over time. It's one foot in front of the other. It's just implementing these things over a period of time, and then all of a sudden, magically, they become an overnight success.
Yeah, it's building that foundation, that base block of like, this is the core of my business, and you add one little layer to it. You don't completely throw away the base layer of the cake and keep adding sprinkles. That you don't have a cake anymore at that point. You got to keep adding that consistent base layer, build this up, and then add one thing at a time. And that's how you build this huge organization, huge business. Anything else, you're just building, like I think they've talked about it too, you're building this beautiful thing on top of a house with no structure, no foundation. So
no foundation, 100%. Dude, I love the sprinkles because like everyone loves the sprinkles, but if you put sprinkles, if you just put them on a plate, like they don't taste as good as they do on top of a cake. You got to have the cake too, right?
Yeah, turns out sprinkles aren't so great on just a bare plate.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome, dude. So let's dive in. Let's get tactical. What are some of the takeaways that you had?
So for me, one of the biggest actually was about not only for a couple different ones. So I guess I'll go with Brian Denny's for me as a tactical on the agent perspective of things. He just is so good talking about how to present offers, especially in the world right now. There's so many major changes with the NAR things coming out with all the different, with buyers, sellers, the inconsistencies, and just the unknowns. Being that person to frame what's next for the buyer on the buyer side, just frame what's next and be that agent's agent. That is such a crucial thing. I've heard him say it over and over and over. but it's one of those things if you don't actually implement it. So I immediately went back and took some notes on how I can implement his offer process and then being that person for the agent. So I even ended up a buyer's consultation this morning and I did, hey, here's the next steps. As soon as we get off this call, talk to the lender. I'm going to send you this. We're going to have our next appointment at this time. And it just takes off all that pressure from them of what's next. Just build that
Yep.
framework out when you first meet them and it completely change. It's a game changer as far as like meeting with buyers and sellers.
100%. Yeah, we probably should have a what's next packet that we deliver. I know we used to have. We used to have for, hey, you just met with us. Here's what's next. You're under contract. Here's what's next. Like, I think we should probably rebuild that, because that's crucial that we have that as a tangible takeaway. Because yeah, Brian Danning's brilliant, right? He coaches our team, and he's just like his results speak for themselves. And it's crazy how in depth and layered he goes on the simple things that so many people overlook. You mentioned like being an agent's agent, and something that sparked in my head there is like, yes, you need to set expectations with your clients, buyers and sellers. You need to set the next steps at every phone call, at every meeting. There has to be a what's next. Like if you just follow that, you will be you will be miles ahead of so many agents, because so many are just in a reactionary state, and they end a conversation, they end a showing, they end a listing appointment. Well, what'd you think? Instead of being the proactive one that says, here's what we're going to do next. Based on the information you've given me, here's what I recommend we do. And that looks like this, and then that turns into that, X, Y, Z. We do A, B, C, then we get X, Y, Z, right? We just continually paint that picture of what that next step is in the process. So that's absolutely crucial. But I think something else that you hit on is I did a little experiment for those that haven't heard. I did a 30-day listing challenge, and I didn't have the time to do it, but I committed to it anyway. And I was able to set 31 listing appointments in 30-day span. And that's with like no new leads. That was just going through our database and going through building a process for us to maximize seller opportunities in our database. A whole other podcast I did on that. Go back and listen 3 or 4 episodes ago where I really broke that down. But the point I'm making with that is through that process, I handed off most of the appointments, but some of them were so last minute, I just went on them. And I'm glad I did, because it helped me refine some of our processes in our organization. It reminded me of kind of what the agents go through, what the clients go through. And it was all good that it happened. But also, I took some listings because of that. And I haven't taken listings in a long time. And what happened with that is that those listings, number one, I learned a couple of valuable lessons, and all of my listings except for one that I took had multiple offers within the first couple of days on the market. And so following that process, setting those expectations, making sure the home is ready, having the proper pricing conversation, all that stuff is just as crucial as it's always been. Even though the COVID market told us it wasn't crucial, it is so crucial. That's step one. Step two is I received offers on these listings, right? And there was one offer that I didn't know that I got. It was a couple of days later. After we had received other offers, I didn't even know this one happened. I didn't even know I had this one. Thankfully, it wasn't a great offer, and there was other multiple offers. But literally, I got it from an agent sent me an email. It went straight to my spam with the offer. They never said, hey, I'm writing an offer. It never said, hey, what's important to the seller? Hey, I had a highest and best in the MLS. I sent out a notification by this date. Never responded to that, never called, never text, never did any of those things. Didn't send a pre-approval with the offer. Like, I could go on and on and on. My point being is, how many of you listening are doing that with your buyers currently? And I think what Brian Danny unpacked from the stage, like literally I just got off the phone with Lauren, our sales manager, and said we need to schedule that as a lunch and learn for us as a team to rewatch that recording of him breaking that down, because it's so important that we're presenting our offers properly. And it really sparked my interest and my memory so much that I went back to I went to the archives of content that I've created, and actually last week's podcast was just a recording of the 7 steps that we created to craft the perfect offer during the COVID market. And so you can say, hey, Matt, that was extreme. That's not the market we're in. And you would absolutely be correct. But why don't you still want to take those steps when crafting your offer? Don't you want your offer to look good? Don't you want you to craft the offer so that your offer gets accepted? Don't you want to position your offer properly? Don't you want to understand what the seller is looking for? And I just think that, so go back and listen to that. We don't need to unpack that today. It's virtually an hour long of me going through that process and the step by step and why it's so important and crucial. But I think, again, back to the basics. Why are we just submitting offers and just hoping they get accepted? Why aren't we having a conversation? You know how many agents there's a week's time on 4 different listings that I received 12 offers total. You know how many of those agents called me before they submitted the offer? 1. And at least they called me, but they didn't even ask me any questions. They just said, hey, just wanted to let you know that we're going to be submitting an offer. I said, awesome, thanks. In the conversation. What if that conversation, and again, go back and listen to this. I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. Go back and listen to last week's episode. But literally, like, why don't you ask 3 or 4 questions? Hey, have you received any other offers? What's important to your seller? Is timeline important? Is price important? Are loan conditions important? What is your seller looking for in the perfect offer? And just have these conversations. What if you actually have them pre-approved and you have the lender call with the pre-approval and say, hey, Shawn just wants you to know, buyer Mary and Sue, they are really great buyers. They're really solid. They already went through pre-underwriting. I know that Shawn is working with them, submitted an offer on your house on listing on whatever Main Street. Just wanted you to know that they're really, really solid buyers. Any questions you have for me? Well, Matt, that's overkill. You don't need that. Is it really overkill, or is it probably what we should be doing for our clients anyway?
And it doesn't take that much longer, to be honest. And what if every time you called an agent, they were so excited that you called them and they were going to go to bat for you with the seller because your process, your under contract process, everything's pre-filled so much that they're like, honestly, I know this other offer is a little bit better, but I know this agent. I've closed every single deal with them. They're always super easy. This other one, I just don't know them. They don't have a pre-approval. Which offer do you want to go with? And I've actually won quite a few offers, not even having the highest number, but having the terms the seller wanted and making it such a good package ready for them with the pre-approval letters and all that it's such a better offer than some other offer that doesn't have any of the stuff it needs. They're missing signatures and just very, very small things, but it matters.
100%. And I think too, like you're taking me back to like the early days of the team. And one of the things that I said is a superpower that we're going to have is, and this was me like projecting it. I said, one of the superpowers we're going to have as a team is we're going to be the easiest to work with. When they work with us, they're going to know we get shit done. We make it simple for the agents. When they submit an offer on one of our listings, we take the workload from them. We do it for them. We do whatever we can to take work off their plate, and we want to be known as the people that are great to work with, the people that get shit done, both the agents and the clients. And just speaking openly, I think we've gotten away from that message as an organization, and we need to get back to it. And so it's just really, really important. Sorry, I'm taking over, Shawn. Continue. What else you got, man?
No, that's so good. And I think last point there, I think it's just sometimes in this industry, we just sometimes feel like we're going to battle with these other agents. At the end of the day, the goal is to get to closing and make everybody win at the end of the day. Like, I'm going to get the very best terms for my seller, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be a complete jerk to this other agent. That's not how you build relationships. I'm going to take as much off their plate, make it a smooth transaction. I've even picked up signs for the other agent, brought it to the office because I want to be known as the agent that makes this transaction smooth. I'm going to get a really good deal. I'm not going to like just offer over asking so we get everything accepted, but I'm going to make this, once we get past that, we're a team trying to get this thing to the closing table, and we'll do whatever it takes to get there. So I think that gets lost so often in our industry.
Dude, yeah, and too many people try to play hardball, and it just never works. It never works. And if it does work, it's a short-term plan. Because if Shawn's an agent's agent, he's known for getting shit done, and he does favors and goes above and beyond, goes the extra mile is one of our core values. If he goes the extra mile for the listing agent when he's a buyer's agent on the property and picks up the sign and lockbox and brings it to them at closing after the walkthrough, the next offer Shawn writes on their property, what is that agent going to remember? Mm-hmm. That Shawn submitted a clean package. So how does that work for Shawn's clients in the future? Right? Like we short term this way too often. And I think it's just important that we're looking at the bigger picture. And yes, of course, we want our clients to get the best deal, but also the clients hired us to get the deal done. Right? Like remove impediments, remove things that are obstacles in the way of the ultimate goal. And I tell this to every seller I meet with. Are you hiring me to list it or hiring me to sell it? There's two different things.
That's huge.
right? Like I don't list properties, I sell properties.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just trying to list it, we're the wrong company. But if you want it to be sold, we're the right partner for you. Right. And I think like how many times do we have that mentality when we're working? Like, are we just writing offers randomly? Well, we just cut everybody off at their knees. Like ultimately we have to allow our clients to lead the process. It's their decision. But I think too many times we don't build enough rapport relationship to actually guide them properly. And we don't give them the blueprint to actually get the deal done, which is ultimately what they're hiring us for.
Right. And if you have to do that, it's also how you frame it to the other agent. Hey, this is why. Build that plan out. Don't just send them a lowball offer and just pray they don't open it, don't take offense to it. Build that framework. I've told agents on our team when they've asked about, we're going to go under asking, okay, well, build the framework of like why you're doing this, what the buyer's intentions are. Build that framework and make it as good as
Control the narrative.
100%.
Yep.
If you send a lowball offer and just hope and pray, either you won't get a response or you're going to get a very upset agent, which you need to take emotions out of it, but it happens very, very often.
Well, and also like, and we're going super in depth on this, but I think it's really important. Like, also, I would argue there are exceptions, but the majority of the time, I'll speak for our agents, and I love them, and they're great, and they're fantastic. But the majority of the time, when they bring those things to me, I'm able to have a more in-depth conversation, ask them questions they haven't asked their buyer that would have helped the buyer build a stronger offer. Right? And so, does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Like it's my point being is that our job as the real estate professional was to help them understand what they are doing and what that could potentially cause in the negative aspect. Mm-hmm. The days of writing an offer and negotiating back and forth on 12 counter offers, at least in our marketplace, is not normal anymore. That's not what is expected. And so, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, like I'm going to take you through a quick journey. So I had one that was multiple offers. And we had highest and best by Monday at 6 p.m. I think maybe it was 5 p.m. Anyway, highest and best by a certain time. Well, we had a showing at 3 o'clock that day. And so I called the agent proactively just to make sure they saw it, that, hey, highest and best are due, blah, blah, blah. Well, they sent an offer at well under asking price, no pre-approval, asking for like $10,000 in concessions and for a painting allowance and like just all these things. And I called the agent and said, you realize this had multiple offers on highest and best, right? So this is, I just want to clarify, is this your highest and best? They said, yeah, the buyers just wanted to write that and see what happened. And I'm like, and like, it wasn't one of our agents and I'm representing the seller. So I didn't like go unpack that, but I'm just like thinking from that poor buyer. They had no chance of getting that listing. They wasted their time. Mm-hmm. If they would have worked with me, they would have worked with an agent that could have guided them properly. Maybe they would have had the same result. But I'm confident we could have had a better conversation to give them a better opportunity to increase their odds of getting that property and securing that for them if that's what they wanted. Does that make sense?
100%.
I think that and I'm trying to unpack it through like my lens as a team leader, but also as an agent. Like it's not that complex. We just kind of throw shit at the wall to see what sticks sometimes. And let's actually be intentional and let's think outside the box and let's guide people through this process. Like they're trusting us to guide them through the biggest purchase or sale of their lives. We need to be creative. We need to be proactive. We need to come up with solutions for them and help them understand the cause and effect, right? Like if you do this, this could happen. But if we did that, then that could happen. Do you want this or that to happen? All right, well, let's do it this way then. Right? Like it's so simple, but I just see so many agents miss the mark and they feel like they're back on their heels because they don't have the right conversations and the right rapport and right relationships with their clients.
And that's such a beautiful thing for buyers, sellers, or if you're a team leader talking to agents, it's what are those questions you're asking them too often? And I think maybe that market that we're coming out of and we're moving into is we're just order takers and think, oh, sure, you want mustard with that? And you want a side of ketchup and pickles versus saying like, hey, I can put mustard on this for you, but this is going to do X, Y, and Z thing. Here's the other options, and ask questions like, why do you want this? What's important to you? And asking those deeper enough questions versus just being like, oh, sure, you want a flooring allowance? Yeah, with $2,500, is that enough for you? Versus why is a flooring allowance important for you? You do know there's
Yep.
multiple offers, right? Like, and walk them through that process, and eventually they'll go, oh, I don't want a good deal on this property. I just want to get the property. And I think if I lowball them, I'm going to get the price I want. Well, what if we just wrote a really strong offer the first time and you got the price? Because we had one recently. They were going to go 20,000 under asking, but they had an escalation to 20,000 over asking. Why do that? Why don't we just ask better questions to see what's the price you want? Because if you do this, you're end up going to probably spend $20,000 more because you lowballed them the first time, wait for multiple offers. It just makes no sense. So it's just asking that question, being the professional. And the way to be the professional is to be a professional in the space. Are you learning? Are you going to role plays? Are you learning in the space to be that professional, not just waiting and hoping a Zillow call comes in or a realtor.com or something comes into you?
100%. Dude, like the mustard analogy was great. Can't help and like forgive me if this offends you, but if it offends you, it's probably because it relates to you. But I think too many people that don't follow Sean's mustard analogy and like don't ask those questions, and they just start pouring the mustard on, right? And like instead of just having that in-depth conversation, Sean said, "Do you want mustard with that?" I think that if you're not able to unpack that as a real estate professional, your next question you're going to be asking is, "Do you want fries with that?" Because you're going to be out of the fucking space and you're no longer going to be a real estate agent. And I'm saying that to warn you because I want better for you. Let's go back to how I intro this podcast. I do this to give back because I want you to win. And if you are not listening to this with an open mind, your next question will be, "Hey, Sean, you want fries with that?" Because you will be getting a real job instead of being in this amazing industry with all these opportunities because you're refusing to change, you're refusing to take initiative, you're refusing to evolve and educate yourself, you're refusing to build the skill set that is needed to win in today's marketplace. And if that's what you want, cool. I'm not judging anyone for any job, but if you're listening to this podcast, my assumption is you want to win in real estate and you want to grow and you want to evolve. And so I hope this is a lesson for you and a wake up call. We have to be better.
1,000%. And that's just not some analogy, not just saying something like that's real. Like I was that order taker and I had 11 mutual releases in 6 months. How is it even possible? I had more mutual releases than people closed. And because I was very, very hardworking. Now I still closed, I think, 30 homes in 6 months, but I could have closed 45. That's just a crazy number to me. And it's because I was just a very, very hardworking order taker and I got a bunch of really good ones right. But long term, I would have been completely out of this business if I kept that up as the markets continue to change. Like I've changed and been able to ask these questions, and it's completely changed my business. That's why I've had over 100 closings since then, because we've been able to have really good conversations, ask good questions, and lead them, not just take orders from them and follow them and hopefully they get to the finish line. I'm going to take them and lead them all the way, whether it's a buyer or a seller, whether it's an agent, a referral, whoever it is, and lead them to that next closing, to the finish line, or whatever goal they're trying to achieve.
Dude, so good. And thank you for sharing that. And it's like, I used to say, we don't sell people in our organization, we help them. Anytime you would say the word sell, replace it with the word help. But I've since changed my language. Like, people don't need sold. People don't even need our help in today's marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
They need our leadership. Be the leader that they need in this marketplace. And if you're not willing to do that, you need to really have an honest conversation with yourself. Like and I'm saying this because I care. Like, I just can't help but think, and we're not even really unpacking the Maverick event. We're just going off the cuff here. But this is so important. It's so relevant in today's marketplace. Like, I just see it over and over and over again. I just want to shake people and like hope this is your wake up call. If you're not able to guide people and lead them through the process, what's going to happen after, what is it, August 17th? 10th, whatever date it is? We're acting like it happened already, right, in our organization. But after, like, you're actually going to have to, there's going to be conversations that you're going to have to convince a buyer to pay you to help them buy a house. How many of you are guilty listening to this that have said, well, don't worry, you can hire me and I'll work for free? That's not the case anymore, unless you want to actually work for free. But what if you could actually build the value with every buyer that you worked with, and you could convince them that you were worth the 3% or whatever the fee is that you want to charge, and they paid that. They literally wrote out a check at the buyer's consultation with you because they were so excited to work with you. How much different would your business look? Now, that's an extreme. I don't think that's going to be required, but I think you should pretend that it is. I think that's the value that you should be able to bring. And if you're not able to bring that value, then I'm sorry to say it, but just like the 70,000 agents that got out of the industry last year, they're predicting 200,000 to get out this year. And I don't want that to be you. And I think you have to adjust and adapt to these new changes that we're talking about. Otherwise, it could be you.
You have to actually be a professional now. And we talked about it on the team recently about it was some program we were rolling out, and I'm like, I want to feel just like with a buyer agent, with a seller, with the team program we rolled out. I want to feel like when they go to closing, even though generally on the buying side they're still not going to pay it, I want them to feel like they had to pay it. Man, this 3%, this whatever I'm paying, this commission, it is not enough. I wish I could pay them so much more because he went such above and beyond that honestly, this feels like I'm getting a steal, not like, why are we paying this much? What did you even do in this transaction? I want them to show up to closing, excited for this house, and feeling like, man, I really wish I want to give. I've had people bring presents to closing because they wish they could just do more. They just felt like we did so much in the transaction that, please, I know this isn't much, but I made this handcrafted thing for you because I wish I could pay you more. And I want to feel every transaction like that. I want to treat every agent like that, that, man, I gave above and beyond. And if they're writing a check or whatever, they feel like, man, I really wish I could pay you more because this is absolutely above and beyond anything I expected. Which in today's world, you go to any restaurant ever, if you go to places, that is not how it is. Usually the bare minimum, it's very different. If you do even above that, it's crazy.
Dude, so great. Like, so actually we had a family day yesterday. We had to go to a doctor's appointment and then drop the car off, and just like yesterday morning was just a shit show. Just running errands here and there with the family. And so we went to lunch while we're waiting on the car to be fixed and all that good stuff. And so we went there, and like I was blown away with the level of service that I got from the waitress. So much so that both of my daughters and my wife said, "Wow, she's really good." How weird is it that you have a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old girl announce how great the service was from a waitress because they're so used to it being so shitty? Now take that analogy, and if you were considered a waitress in your field as a real estate agent, what level of service are you giving? Are they giving you a tip because they have to? Or are they doing what I did yesterday and paying, I think I left a $40 tip because she earned it. I wanted to pay her more, so I did. Like it's such a simple analogy, but I think we just overlook these little things and what level of service are we delivering? Like if most people would agree that when you go to a restaurant today, you don't get the service you used to get. Customer service is getting lowering day by day by day, just in the world that we live in. It's just not as much of a priority as I feel it should be. And so we can use that as, well, we'll just go with the norm and we'll just get worse with the society, or we can use that as a massive opportunity. And what if we can stand out? What if we can go the extra mile? What if we can deliver red carpet service in everything that we do? What would our business look like if everybody wanted to be like, man, I wish I could pay Shawn more? Right? Like, just imagine how much different your world would be in real estate. If that's the perspective of everybody that talked with you, everybody that worked with you, that's what they had. Imagine how much different your business would look. You'd have people waiting out the door to pay your premium price to work with you.
100%. And when you have that,
starts with the client experience.
100%. And when you have that pipeline, you'll start seeing those people, and the people that don't fit within that, you won't work with them. But because you don't have to work with them, you've got such a good pipeline, which is a whole other conversation about having a pipeline full like that. But if you have that customer service and you have someone that's like doesn't want to pay it, is absolutely a nightmare to work with, you don't have to work with them. Maybe they're a good fit for someone else, but maybe it's not for you, because my pipeline is full of people who are super excited to work with me. I paved the path for them. They're going to let me lead them. And if that person is completely fighting against that, it's not in line with my core values. Maybe there's a newer agent on the team that has time and can work with that. But I'm at the point in my business where I don't. And so I don't usually work with those people. Now, not every single time, but there's people who fit in with that and fit in with what we're trying to do. And there's people that aren't. It's part of it.
Yep. I love it. Shawn, we're running out of time here, man. Let's get back to what we originally said we were going to talk about. I hope this has been valuable for you guys. We kind of went off the cuff there, but It's just super important that we understand those things we just unpacked, because I don't want the next question you're asking to be, do you want fries with that? Right? Like I want to make sure that if you want to be in this business, if you're listening to this show that tells me you want to be better, I want to help you become better. I want to help you win, and I want to help you become whatever level of success that you want. We just have to change our mindset first, and then our behaviors change after that. It's so important. Shawn, what else? Let's unpack some more stuff from Maverick. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, there's two other big things that we take away, and I'm good going either way you want to go. So one big thing that everybody talked about was recruiting, and the other big thing I think across the board was training. Do you have a preference on which what would you like to talk about?
Go for it.
So for
Whatever.
me, a big, huge thing, which we talk about recruiting a lot, and there's some really, really good systems for that. We've got recruiting funnels that can help build with that. For me, training, talking to Carmen, we had a really good small mastermind breakout session, and I had some of my biggest takeaways talking about training with her, just about training agents, but also how to work and talk with other people. She had some amazing mental maps, which we actually talking about takeaways, taking action and implementing them immediately. She talked about how to, we've had all the agents asking questions and consistently calling and just unmet expectations on both ends. So we built a mental map of exactly what to do when you have a problem come up. Here's exactly how you do it. We were able to roll it out to the agents, and that was a implementation that we made. It's going to make a major impact for all of our transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, everybody. We made that impact 1 week after this event. Completely built it out. I had someone else. I just wrote it on a piece of paper. Jenna actually made it look pretty because I have no idea how to do that. I just brainstormed on a map, and it looks amazing. The transaction coordinators are thanking us for it, and it looks absolutely amazing. It's an amazing, amazing product.
And it's when an agent gets stuck and they don't know what to do, like, have you done this, this, and this, right? It's just a flow chart of here's where you go first. If you can't find it there, go there. If yes, then do this. If no, do that. Right. Instead of them wondering, really, who do I call? And there being one person that's the kind of the blocking point, if you will, of like, hey, I'm waiting on Shawn to call me back. I wish Shawn called me back. Well, everyone's calling Shawn at once instead of actually going through this process, right? And I think it just, yeah, I love that. And I think too, one of the things I heard you say in the training was that the aha for you was that, and I've said this before, but I think you heard it from a different perspective. And so I'd love for you to unpack it, is that I firmly believe that we don't need more training in our organization. We don't need more training. I think we need to train differently. And so, like, the more isn't better, but better is better. I think we need to improve our training, not do more training. And one of the things that I've said a lot is that, and I got this from Jon Cheplak, is we don't need to learn more. We need to be reminded more. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the things that is missing in our training is we just talk at people. We don't do a good enough job at asking questions to involve them. And when I say we, I'm talking our organization. I'm talking my trainings that I lead, but I'm also talking just as a general as well. Is that training isn't great training isn't just giving information. That's step one. What if you started it with, let's get them enrolled by asking great questions, leading questions to get everyone to admit they have the problem that you're getting ready to train them on? What if your training started that way? Hey, Shawn, what obstacles and hurdles are you having with, let's go back to what we just talked about with the buyers you're working with right now. Oh, they're wanting to back out of the contract in these mutual releases because of this, or they lowballed offered on that, or they're just wanting you to show all over the property, all over the earth, and they're not narrowing down the right properties. And so it's just a lot of time wasting stuff. Shawn, how valuable is your time for you? Oh, it's very important. So what have you had to give up? What sacrifice have you had to make because of these unmet expectations with your clients? Oh, you've not had time with your family. You've not had time with your kids. You're working nights and weekends. How does that feel? Yeah, it's burnt out. What if we actually had a training that we've built out for you that we're going to go over today to help you get control back over your time? Would that be valuable to you? Now, that time management training, that setting at proper expectations training is going to be way more retained by the collective whole, because we empowered people, we enrolled them into what we're going to train on, versus just, well, today we're going to learn how to manage time better. Right. And then you go into the training and you keep it interactive. But I think another important part after, so the enrollment is important. Deliver the training, deliver it clear, concise. Here's the training. And then after, what I think, and I fall guilty of this too, is that we don't do a good enough job of getting action items. So, Shawn, here's what you learned from the training. What are you going to apply to your business over the next week based upon the training we went over today? What are the action items you're going to take? And then we have accountability after the action items. Because I think what a lot of people, and this, I'm speaking for our organization, but also, like I said, I have a pulse as a coach too. And I think what a lot of people are searching for right now is traction. And training doesn't give you traction. Action gives you traction. But how do you get people to action? You enroll them, you give them the knowledge they think that they need, and then you hold them accountable to actions they need to take based upon the training you just gave. That's my perspective from not being in the mastermind that you were in with training, but just the things that I overheard. So I'd love for you to unpack that a little further.
No, that's absolutely crucial. And I think those are the 3 points. And those are some of the takeaways I had. I'm like, we have the best training. I guarantee we have the best training in our area and probably one of the best trainings in the state. But I'm like, but how are agents still consistently having questions on things we go over? And the problem is, which I'm starting to see this too, helping, being now a legacy agent, helping do some of these things. I get frustrated because I'm like, we've talked about this 34 times. We've got a training built out. It's right here. Why you keep calling me about this question? I'm like, open the thing up. We have a checklist. Did you go over the checklist? Oh no, I didn't even know there was a checklist. And it just gets frustrating. So instead of being able to help them, I pull back my emotions and help them through it. But what if we built out a training, like you said, enrolling them first, teaching them, and then action steps? And I think a lot of times what we have missing is people train and train and go to conferences and learn. They don't take any action away from it, and they completely forget it by the next one. I know we've had some coaching calls before in the past where the coach is like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna learn. Just do." And then who did this last weekend? Everyone's like, "Ooh,
Crickets.
crickets." So we talked to Carmen in the small group. I was like, how do we train with that? The problem solving map was the very first thing. And the next thing was building the training with action steps involved. So two-pronged, depending on how much time you have for training. A lot of times it'll be, hey, here's the homework. This is what we're going to check on the next meeting. But also what if, like, for that, let's just say here's how to get your time back in your calendar. What if we had everyone bring their computers with them, and at that training, you had everyone build their calendar out right there? Or if it's a training on your CRM,
Workshop.
100% workshops. You train on it, do workshop. I think we're probably the only industry. Like if you had a football team and you told them, or a basketball team, you said, "Hey, here's how to shoot the perfect jump shot." All right, well, good luck. Go home. Everybody shoot your jump shot, and you come back and no one knows how to shoot the jump shots because they never practiced it. They completely forgot. What if you taught them how to do it? Did a seminar on how to play basketball? Here's how to do it, and you go out there and here's the ball, shoot. And that's exactly how I think we need to train. And I think there's going to be a lot of really good training. I think that's where training is going to go in the future. If you just do Zooms all the time, the top people, the top 1%, they'll take action items and they'll improve. But the 99%, they're just going to sit there and waste away. So if you want your entire team to do that, you're going to have to like force them, whether they want to or not. They're not going to know that we're forcing them to. But you have to force them to take action and learn these steps. There's people on our team who still barely know how to use the CRM because they did the training on it, and then they have to have someone like show them. And so a lot of times workshop is what a lot of people need.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a great reminder for me too, because one of the things that we've built out in the past is like we had a workshop Wednesday, right? Like, but then it just became overwhelming. Like we had too many irons in the fire, and so we got away with it, got rid of it. But I think we just need to do a better job at training on less, but making sure we have depth of that training. And like we have a theme of the month, right? And so what's the theme of this month, and how can there's probably 4 levers to this theme. What is week 1? What is the action items? What is week 2? And it's all around the same thing.
100%. And we've done some challenges that way, and we always crush it because that's our main focus. And then having smaller trainings versus trying to fill up a whole hour. Hey, we're gonna focus on this 20-minute training. All right, the next 20 minutes we're gonna actually workshop this. And I think the people who show up to them and have that, you're gonna have to retrain your people to want to do that, but they're gonna at first like shy away and they're not gonna show up because they don't want to actually do the action because everyone's scared of that first interaction. But when they start doing it, they're like, man, I've grown so much in 2 weeks I didn't in 6 months because I never was actually doing anything. I just kept learning more and more things, but wasn't taking any action on them. So it's so crucial. And then going back to being in the right rooms again, over and over, the exact same thing. You have to teach agents exact same way as you do if you're going to mastermind or whatever. Be in the same room, continually do it, and then take action on those items. Otherwise, I could have 44 books full of the best information in the world and do nothing with it. So
love it, dude. So I want to wrap this up. So there's a couple things, the takeaways that I had, and my number one takeaway was simplify. Simple scales. Simple solves the complex. The people that are winning in this marketplace are the ones that are doing the simple things at a high level. They got rid of shiny objects. They simplified everything, and they're just running the play over and over and over again. I actually shared in our chats this morning. Someone had shared they made commitments yesterday. We're listing focused with some of our organization. They made a commitment yesterday, and they didn't hit the commitment. The commitment was activity based, and they didn't hit the commitment. But they very quickly after saying, "Hey, I didn't do this, but I did do this. I got this result, and I got this house under contract," completely avoiding the root of their commitment. And I almost typed something and I didn't, and then I ultimately decided I wanted to address that. Not that I didn't want to celebrate the accomplishment, right? The whole goal of the activity is to get the result that they got. But if we fall in love with the activity, can you hear me? It says my internet's unstable.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, sorry about that. But if you fall in love with the activity, and you're not, and you are getting the result at an accelerated level or a decelerated level, meaning that your activity you do ABC, you should get XYZ. Sometimes you'll do ABC and you get jack shit. You get nothing. Sometimes you do ABC and you get XYZ times 10. But I think both of those scenarios prevent us from continuing to grow as a human, as an agent in our business, in our success path, whatever it is, because we allow the result to dictate our activity the next day. What if we remove our emotions from the result and just fall in love with the activity? Regardless, if you got, I don't give a shit if you got 50 houses under contract yesterday, you said you're going to have 20 conversations and you still had your 20 conversations, or you had 0 under contract. What I want to help people focus on is, yes, at some point you need to focus on the results. I'm not saying ignore the results, but where I see the most gap is they don't stick to the process consistently enough. If you like, I think that it's so important that you stick to the leading indicators, which in our organization is conversations. How many conversations have you had? And if you have the right number of conversations consistently, week in and week out over a 90-day period, you will get the results. And if you don't, which hasn't happened yet, but if it were to happen, I now have a body of work that I can coach, lead, and train. We can go watch your game film. We can listen to your calls. We can find out where those gaps are because you have enough body of work and activity that we can help you improve. And we can actually absolutely fill those gaps. But too many people want us to fill the gaps before they take the work. And it takes that consistent body of work. So number one takeaway for me was simplify. What can we do to simplify things? Number 2 was standards. That was what my speech was on, right? Was standards, and it's made a big impact in our organization. Is it perfect? Nope. Have we weeded people out because of it? Yep. Do we have people that aren't adhering to the standards? Sure. We have people, right? So it's just part of it. There's ebbs and flows. It just happens. But we at least have an organization. We have a standards that we've applied that we know what we need to do, and we're holding people accountable to doing it. And third, it's not last because it's least. It's probably most important. You need to simplify. You need to have standards, but you also, if you're a team leader, you need to be recruiting. You have to be recruiting, because what happens when people fall off because they don't meet the standards? What happens when people have something happen in their life and they're not able to do the activity? It's so important that is insulation or an insurance policy for your organization, for your standards. And what is really amazing is that I shared from the stage, I shared a screenshot of we use Sisu for some just stuff in our organization to keep us on track and show us our leading indicators and the activities. And one of the things, our agents that have onboarded in the last 90 days had set 150 appointments in the last 90 days. We had I think it was 82 agreements signed from those new agents. 82 new clients from new people that we wouldn't have had if we didn't have our new people. Now, what happens over time is those new people, now they're taking the activity, they'll build the skills, and it continues to grow. But also when you bring those new people in with a new hunger, a new set of standards, it inspires and motivates the other people that maybe are in a different spot in their career because they see them getting the results, and it just continues. It levels and balances each other out when done properly. So I think it's just really, really important that we have that. And let's say that you're not a team leader, you're an agent. You're like, Matt, I don't care about this recruiting thing. Cool. But you're wrong, because you should be recruiting buyers and sellers every day anyway. Same theory applies. What are you doing to attract buyers and sellers? So Shawn, any thoughts on that?
No, that's absolutely right. And as far as the standards, I think one of the biggest things is I saw that later, and I'm glad, because that high level of accountability, a lot of times what I started to notice agents on our team do, and as I've grown as a leader too, is they'll say, we're going to hold them accountable to something. And they'll say, well, I didn't hit this, but then immediately jump to something they did so that they still get that reward of like, well, I didn't hit any of my commitments I asked to, but I got 300 contract. Awesome. But those are for things you did 90 days ago. What did you do right now so that I don't, and if you let them off the hook, which I've done before, I know we do sometimes as an organization, let them off the hook. Hey, good job on this once, but hey, you didn't hit this commitment. If you let them off the hook, then they're gonna be at the bottom of that roller coaster really soon. And like, you're not caring about that person if you don't call them out on it, which I'm really, really glad that you did, because I saw that and I got busy with something else. I didn't call it out either. So I think that's important, because if we do let that slide, everyone else does the same thing, and it catches on just like anything else. So if you don't hold people to the standard's the
Right.
standard.
It's 100%. And what happens over time, and I've done this both ways, right? And it's hard for me because I don't want to like burst people's balloon, and they're like, they just had a win. They just got a house under contract yesterday. Like, great job. I'm so fucking proud of you. Great work. However, your commitment was this, and you still did not do that.
Yeah.
So do you want more of these under contracts in the future? Do I love you enough? Do I care for you enough as your leader to actually call it spade a spade?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I decided I do. Right now, some people it may offend. They may say, "Well, he didn't celebrate my wins." No, not I did. I celebrate your wins, but I want to celebrate your wins again next month, and then the month after, and the month after. And if we focus on the results too much and we get away from the process that got us the results, we're not going to have those continued results of success.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really, really important that we just call that stuff out, because sometimes love and support doesn't always feel like love and support. Tough love is a form of love. And I just think that too many people are looking for this rah rah, everything's great, sunshine and rainbows, and that's just not reality. Don't get me wrong, I want to celebrate, and we win at a fucking high level, and I'm so proud of what we have accomplished. But I also know that people rely on me to continue to grow, and they come in our organization because they want to chase the best version of themselves. They want to be around other like-minded people, and they want to be in a growth mindset environment, and they want to become the best version of themselves, and ultimately they want to change their life. And it is my responsibility to have those tough conversations to help them do so. As uncomfortable as it gets, it is still my responsibility. And if I don't do it, that's when I stopped caring.
Everybody wants a cheerleader. There's a reason that cheerleaders and coaches are different. Coaches aren't always fun to be around. Nick Saban, best coach ever, not necessarily always the most fun guy to be around, but he's the guy that gets you to the next level. Cheerleaders are super fun. Everybody likes them, but cheerleader is not going to get you to the next level. Like, they are not going to push you. They're just going to be there to cheer you. Hey, good job. You did this. And I fall into that true. I'm a cheerleader, but I'm not holding them accountable. I'm not being that coach or that mentor, that leader that to help them get to the next level. I'm not pushing them. And of course, everybody needs a little cheer in our lives. We got to pep them up. But there's times if people are holding that up as a shield, you have to go, hey, I'm so sorry. I need to push the shield aside and tell you, like, this is actually what you need to do. This is what you didn't commit to. And this is how you get to the next level. It's super, super important.
I love it. Cool, Shawn. Dude, thanks so much for taking your time to share this and unpack it. I'm sure there's so much more that we can unpack at a later time. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience today before we sign off here?
No, all I want to say is whatever you do, take action, whether it's from this podcast, the next podcast, the last one, just take one bit of action from it, implement that, and then go on to the next thing. There's so many things we talked about. Just take one thing, take that one thing, write it down, build that. All right, now re-listen to it, listen to the next episode, take one thing from that one and go from there. Just take action and take action and take action, and you'll learn from there.
Love it. Action wins.
Always.
Shawn, thank you so much. Appreciate you. It's really cool to see your growth and your continued growth, as not just in real estate, but as a person, man. Super proud of you. Honored to run alongside you and be a part of what we're building. It's just it's really rewarding to see the growth that you've had. So, dude, I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you for being you. I'm proud of you, and you should be proud of yourself.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you as always. I know you got value from this. Shawn shared a lot of gold here for you guys. And we went a little bit off topic, but hey, we're talking about what's relevant. We're being real, we're being authentic. And so we could have just read from our notes, but we just went with the heart. And so I hope you found value in that today. If so, just share this with a friend. We're doing this to give back, and hopefully you find value from this. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Shawn.